Carlos Nelson with What's Up Kansas City. And tonight we have State Rep Mark Sharp on, and Mark's going to give you the rundown on what took place in Jeff City. He just got signed in. Mark, the ball is in your court. Run it down.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Again, my name is Mark Sharp, State Representative, 36th District in South Kansas City. I was just sworn in for another 2 years to work in the Missouri House this past Wednesday. This past Wednesday was a pretty eventful day across the country, not only at the U.S. Capitol, but at capitals across the country. And that's the part that's not making national headlines. Jeff City, where I work at, was one of those capitals that also had a heavy presence of people that looked a lot like the rioters that were happening in DC. So as I was leaving the building for the day, I just thanked God that our building wasn't stormed and breached while we were being sworn in as well. It was a terrible day. I was listening to Jay Ashcroft, our Secretary of State, give his remarks to the body, all while my desk mate, Representative Patty Lewis, who replaced Representative Greg Razor, who's now the senator, was showing me these updates from her phone. And I couldn't believe it. I'm asking, is this happening right now? And this was happening live. As we were being sworn in, it was happening live at the U.S. Capitol. Not knowing also there was a presence of at least 100 Carlos, maybe more than that. And when I drove past these guys and gals, it wasn't just fellas, it was a good mix. And a lot of these folks had on the camouflage, the vests, the assault rifles slung over the shoulder. It was a very scary scene. And to just know that they were out there that entire afternoon, and to know that things could have gone down that entire afternoon. I don't know if the Jeff City Capitol Police would have had, there may have been a similar response. I'm not sure if we had enough police presence there to protect us. So we have to have these conversations now when we live in this era of Trumpsters. And I understand believing in your party. I understand all these things, but there's a certain way you do things, and they just jumped over the line.
Well, second question. Did you have any conversation with your colleagues? And if so, what was that conversation about?
Well, it's all anyone's talking about, it seems like now. And the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus, which I'm the treasurer of, we're really trying to figure out how now we can use this this turning point, really, between Democrats and Republicans, and try to use this as leverage, really, to foster some better relationships. There are a lot of Republicans out there that I think this is finally enough. I think enough is enough finally. And finally, it took long enough, but
and let me cut you off. If treason is not enough, there will never be enough.
Yeah.
Now, when I got that, I got TV in the office, I don't be paying attention, but I turned it on, listened to all of that. I didn't even give it a second thought, because I had called Cleaver's son on something, and he was like, "No, Nelson, I got to get off. I'm checking on." I was like to myself, "What are you talking about? You checking on Dad? He's up there in D.C. Yeah. They got the military. What do you mean?" Yeah. But after the aftermath, when Cleaver came on, and now you're hearing more and more what took place, that was no less than a coup. And there could have been a lot of dead bodies. And I think that the federal government had to be involved. And we're not talking, we're doing the same thing that they do with blacks. The big elephant in the room is race, and nobody's talking. The big elephant in the room is treason by more than just the Rubio and that few. There were a lot of people who had their hands, not just in this Capitol, that has what has happened over the last 4 years to this country. And I would think that there are some decent Republicans at this point in time ready to work with you, Mark.
And I agree, Mr. Nelson. I think that's where we're at. So right now, my job really is trying to figure out and navigate these waters and try to figure out and identify who those people are, because they don't have stamps on their forehead. So you have to figure out who these people are through conversations and just time. But hopefully there'll be some of those moderate Republicans down there that can work with us and just denounce this type of behavior. We're all Missourians. I do my best to look across the aisle and see us as Missourians and not as Democrats and Republicans. And I hope to God that they take a similar approach.
Well, Mr. Nelson looks at all of us as Americans for real. And a lot of white people don't understand that Black people are most of the time more patriotic than they think that they are. Because when I see people putting their flags up, the only reason I don't have a flag up where I live, because there's no place to plant it where I'm at now. But my people fought for that flag. And we have been raised in Western and European viewpoints. And they are the ones that have said God, country, and family for the United States. Black, white, whatever. That's what our credo is supposed to be. And the ones that wrote that credo, it seems like, is dollars, dollars, family, dollars, and if there's a God, we with him.
Yeah.
Because no God that I was brought up would approve of the things that you've seen, not just in the Capitol, what you've seen over the last 200 years by God-fearing, what they would say, Christians.
Sure.
And that's Mr. Nelson saying it. I'm not a politician, so I don't have to please anybody. But audience, that's how Black people are looking at what's going on. If your ears are open, we don't have no animosity, but you've got to work with our young politicians that want to move forward on unity, not just in Missouri, but for this country. And it's a lot of rebuilding to be done.
I want to finish by saying this, Carlos. Growing up, I knew that there were, prejudices and injustices. It doesn't take a boy or a girl long to figure out that, okay, white folks are treated some way and Hispanics and Blacks and everybody else is treated a different way. But I gotta tell you, as an American, I really thought that there were some lines. It didn't matter who you were. If you crossed them, I expected the full force of the military government to come crashing down.
Our government
and that didn't happen.
The police, the feds, when you cross that line, that embarrass you. The heck with what's going on in this country, how did that make us look on an international stage?
That's not being talked about enough. We took 50 steps back with that. The American government could have made the American people feel proud had they responded the correct way. To see the American government stand up to those kinds of people would have restored faith in so many people who've lost faith.
That's why all politics begin local, and the things that Cascade Media Group and some of our local elected officials, we're understanding. And I think the ones that I have spoken to, like yourself, have decided I'm not going to sit back and just be a state rep. I'm going to take a leadership position. I know what I need to do come hell or high water. That's what I'm seeing in young politicians like you, yourself, like Quentin Lucas, And there's a host around the country that know that we have to move the needle on race relations and access to capital for minorities. I'm specifically interested in access to capital for Black people. I'm not the sprinkle guy with all of that, but I don't mind if we're gonna get some movement.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give the audience your closing statements?
Well, it's 2021. I know we just celebrated New Year's. Some good news and bad news from that with celebratory gunfire. We had less calls in, so that was good about complaints. But the bad news is we had more property damaged this year from bullets falling down. So we still are making the call and the ask to people: stop shooting your guns in the air. We're going to have some playoff wins coming up here soon. Save your ammo. Don't shoot in the air. Don't be the person that hurts somebody or kills somebody.
Mark, what do you want to tell them about contacting you? Because I got a newsletter today from.
Yep. It just went
one
out.
of the few bright politicians to understand that you need to stay in touch with your constituents and tell them. And so you were sending the newsletter out, and now you have access to the media where you can come on when you want. That's what an informed community needs. Politicians and individuals like yourself that are saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it in your name. And if you don't like what I'm doing, then ring me up or email me.
Right.
All right.
Well, yes. If you have any questions about anything, please email me. My house email at the Capitol is mark.sharp SHARP at house.mo.gov.
Pleasure to have you on the show, sir. And as we always close, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
Good.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.